Good morning, Styrene Junkies. This is George from Kitchen Table Build's Facebook page. Taking a shot at my first YouTube video, going someplace where I never thought I'd go. But thanks to BG at BG's Model Works YouTube page and his question challenge of how do you organize your stash, I thought I needed to jump down this rabbit hole. Mostly because it's something I'm in the middle of doing. I recently started building out my hobby room in my basement and needed to find a way to store about 675, 700 kits with a couple of ideas, a couple of objectives. I had some criteria in mind. Number one, I wanted to be able to store everything single depth. I wanted to see everything I had in one shot. Number two, I wanted them to be organized in a way that I could find a kit that I was looking for fairly readily. And last but not least, although I have a nice wall, a 18-foot long wall to store everything on, I needed to be efficient because I got a lot of kits and did some calculations and measurements, and I think I've got just about enough room here on this wall to handle everything. I keep everything I have is inventoried in ScaleMates, which I found is an incredible tool for knowing what do I have and what don't I have. But let me just jump in. I've organized these things in a couple different ways. Number one, mostly by manufacturer of the subject, and then alphabetical. So if you look up here, I start with American Motors. There's an Auburn. There's some Buicks, and then some Cadillacs, and then we get into Chevys. Chevys are kind of organized, broken down a little bit. I've got all the full-size Chevys first. And then I come into Camaros, Corvettes, and then we go back down here to the other end on the second shelf where I continue with Corvettes, Chevelles, then getting into Chryslers, Dodges, and of course Fords. Starting with the older first, they're arranged chronologically by date of the subject. So, I'm starting with the old 23 Model Ts, and oh look, there's a Ferrari stuck in the middle there, and an Edsel, and heck, I even got a Citroen thrown in here. But I've got them organized again by manufacturer and then by date. Come through all my Fords, and then finishing up with Fords here. As you can see, this is still a work in process. I'm going to be putting a laminate floor down in this space, and then once I do that, there'll be a row of shelves across the floor. But trying to keep it efficient, you can see what I've done is I've got all of the what I'll call the shoebox size kits, or the shoebox kits on the shallow shelves that are only about 8 inches deep. And then I put all my larger flat kits, flat box kits, over on these deeper shelves that are about 18 inches deep. The large kits up top. There's not really much in the way of organization on this shelf, except by on these shelves, except by kind of by kit box size, which by default kind of gets you to kit manufacturer. So I've got some of the bigger stuff up there. My lone MFH Ferrari 250, a bunch of Revell Germany kits, the ICM Model T kits, and then jump into Heller, some of the old Testors kits, and then down here I've got a few old Gunzi Sangyo kits and Fujimis, and some Hasegawas, and then last, or not last, but Tamiya, and then finishing up over here with my Monogram Classic kits. I do have more kits to throw on here. Like I said, this is about maybe 3/4, 2/3 of my collection. Until recently, I had all of this stuff stacked too deep on 3 metal shelving units, and kind of outgrew them. Had a whole bunch piled on the floor, and when I wanted to find a kit, I couldn't find it. It would take me forever. I'd have to move boxes around and all kinds of things, and finally I decided, it's time to bite the bullet. I'm fortunate to have an 18 by 12 room or area in my basement that I can, in the process of building into a hobby room, thanks to help from my son Adam. Still will continue to do all my building up at the kitchen table, so I can enjoy my building time and share it with my lovely bride, who is very encouraging and supportive of my hobby. Well, I do my building on the kitchen table on one end, she's doing watercolors on the other, and that's pretty much how we spend an hour or so every evening, or a couple hours usually on Saturday. But this is my stash. I do have it arranged, again, somewhat logically, starting with manufacturer alphabetically, and then chronologically within manufacturer, all of the big shoe boxes on the shallow shelves, and then I've got room on the deep shelves here for the larger boxes. And I believe I have enough room here for everything, and maybe even a little expansion. The one thing I haven't quite figured out what I want to do yet is, you can see here I have a variety of the old smaller boxed AMT and Johan kits. I don't like stacking stuff on top of those boxes because they're kind of old and fragile. So right now they're really not worked into the collection by subject manufacturer. They're just kind of hanging here on the side. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with them yet, if I'm going to work them into the main wall, or just kind of leave them on the side like I have them right now. We'll figure that out. But that's how I organize my stash. And again, the beauty of it is I get to sit back every now and again, and when I'm all done, I'll be able to sit back and look at a 18-foot by 7.5-foot wall of models. I've got a little bit of room up top for some expansion, for add a couple more Chevys in there if I need to. Once I get everything on these shelves, I may end up spreading things out a little bit to give me the ability to add, to add additional kits here and there. But I'm pretty much done buying kits. I can honestly say that if something's been kitted and it's a subject I want, with one or two exceptions, I've been fortunate enough to be able to acquire it, and I'm kind of in a mode now that, again, with a couple exceptions of kits I'm still looking for, that the only kits I'll be buying will be any new kits of new subjects that I don't already have, or occasionally I'll buy a reissue of something I already have if there's a compelling reason to do so. One thing I do want to point out on the shelves, as I built these shelves, it was important to me to avoid a Luca C incident. If you guys watch Luca's videos, you know he had an incident with all of his shelves coming down off the walls. These things are very well supported. Each one of these metal shelf brackets that you see under here are rated for 50 pounds each, and I put one on each stud. So across this roughly 14-foot long shelf, I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 10, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 brackets, which means theoretically each one of those shelves can hold 500 pounds. And these brackets here are, I think, are rated at 70 pounds each or something like that. But weight capacity isn't an issue. I'm not worried about these shelves falling down. And at one time, again, I'll be able to, when the project's done, which could be within another week or so, after I get the floor down, this wall will be back up, then I'll finish out the rest of this hobby room, which will be where I keep all my supplies, store everything. And I've got a workbench over here on the other side. I got this workbench I built. Right now it's a mess because everything's in kind of in disarray. Right now it's just kind of pushed over to the other end of the wall to get it out of the way so I can lay the floor. But I've got these workbench, and I've got some of these nice little storage cabinets that I pack ratted, and I'm going to put a ceiling in with some lighting, and got a past spray booth to put together, and at some point I'm going to have a nice little shop down here with room to pursue another interest of mine. I'll have room for about an 8x10 model railroad, N-scale model railroad, which is kind of another long-term interest of mine, and something that I've never really had time, space, or inclination to build, but I'm going to do that. So I'm going to sign off now. Thanks to BG for this inspiration, and hope you found this interesting and helpful. It was kind of fun watching everybody else's videos and seeing the variety of ways that they organize their kits. Some of which, honestly, I kind of scratched my head. You know, how do you find what you're looking for when you want to find it? To me, I approach my model building based not on what kit am I looking for, but what subject do I feel like building. So it makes sense for me to organize my models by subject. So that's kind of my thinking, and I'm prattling on here. I'm going to bore the hell out of all of you, so I'm going to sign off now. Thank you, and thank you to BJ and Luca for your inspirations.